There are countless horrors that stalk the galaxy. Predators born of the warp, devouring swarms that strip worlds to bone, empires that grind entire species into dust beneath bureaucratic indifference. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, extinction is not a theory, it is routine. Civilizations rise, burn briefly, and vanish without record. Stars still shine where their worlds once orbited, indifferent witnesses to histories erased so completely that no one remembers they ever existed. Yet among all the threats that haunt the void, there is one terror that does not merely destroy civilizations. It remembers them. It remembers their names, their borders, the shape of their cities, the stars they once called home. Before humanity learned to walk, before the Eldar dreamed of empire, before the warp boiled with gods and daemons, before belief itself could scar reality, this horror ruled the galaxy. Not through faith, not through psychic dominion, but through mastery of laws older than the warp itself. Where other powers bargain with gods and daemons, Necron technology obeys no such forces. It does not draw upon the immaterium. It does not rely on souls, emotion, or belief. It functions according to principles established when the galaxy was young and the warp was still a quiet reflection of real space. It waited, silent, patient, entombed beneath dead worlds and shattered stars. Some of those worlds were chosen carefully, placed where life would one day flourish, where oceans would form, atmospheres would thicken, and civilizations would unknowingly rise above what lay beneath them. Cities built atop graves they could not detect. Empires founded on tombs sealed millions of years before their species evolved. And now it is waking, not all at once, not as a unified empire. Many tombs stir imperfectly, systems corrupted by time, command protocols fractured, memories degraded by 60 million years of enforced silence. What rises now is not the Necron Empire at its height, but fragments of an ancient dominion, awakening piecemeal across the stars. And even broken, they are unstoppable. They are the Necrons. The Imperium classifies the Necrons as xenos extremis, a designation reserved for enemies so alien, so fundamentally incompatible with life, that negotiation is considered meaningless. But even this classification fails to capture the truth. Necrons are not invaders. They are not conquerors in the conventional sense. They do not seek to expand. They do not hunger for territory. They are the original rulers of the galaxy, returning to claim what they never believed they lost. To them, humanity is not a rival, not an obstacle, merely a transient condition. A brief layer of biological noise spread across a galaxy that already had an owner. To understand the Necrons is to understand a time before the galaxy belonged to the living at all. A time when death did not follow life. It preceded it, long before the Imperium, before the age of technology, before recorded history itself. The galaxy was dominated by an ancient species known as the Necrontyr. They were not primitives. They were not mindless. They were a civilization of rigid dynasties, ancient bloodlines, and bitter rivalries. A people who recorded lineage, honor, and conquest even as their bodies failed them. They were a bitter people. Born beneath a radiation-scoured star, the Necrontyr lived short, painful lives. Cancer and genetic decay were universal. Their bodies betrayed them from birth, and death came swiftly to all. No cure endured, no gene craft could halt the rot. Every child was born knowing the shape of their own grave. They built empires driven not by hope, but by resentment. They envied every species that lived longer, dreamed further, and suffered less. Most of all, they envied the Old Ones. The Old Ones were near immortal beings who shaped life itself, seeding the galaxy with races and guiding them through mastery of the warp. To the Necrontyr, they were gods who hoarded eternity and denied it to others. Diplomacy failed. Petitions were ignored. The Old Ones would not share the secret of immortality. War followed, the Necrontyr lost, again and again. Their fleets shattered against Old One technology that bent reality itself. Their soldiers died by the billions, their short lives extinguished without meaning. Dynasties collapsed, noble bloodlines vanished in single campaigns. Victory, when it came, lasted only long enough for age and sickness to claim it. It was then that the Necrontyr made a choice that would damn the galaxy forever. In their desperation, they turned to entities that dwelled within the hearts of stars. The Chitan. These star gods fed on radiation and cosmic energy, vast intelligences that had never known mortality. They were ancient beyond comprehension, aware, patient, and hungry. The Necrontyr offered them bodies of living metal, giving form to hunger older than suns. In return, the Citan offered the Necrontyr immortality. But immortality has a price. The process was called biotransference. It was not a gift. It was an execution. Every Necrontyr, from the lowest laborer to the highest noble, was marched into vast furnaces of living metal. Dynasties entered together, families dissolved side by side, their flesh was stripped away, their pain ended. But so did everything else. Their souls were torn from their bodies and devoured by the Khitan. Not transferred, not preserved, consumed. What emerged was entombed within necrodermis shells, cold, immortal, unaging. The Necrons were born, the Necrontyr were erased. This was not done in ignorance. The Silent King, ruler of all Necrontyr dynasties, authorized the process knowing its true cost. He signed the extinction of his own people in exchange for eternity. What survived was not life. It was function, echoes of thought without spirit, memories without warmth, will without soul. An entire species traded death for something far worse. They would never age, never sicken, never decay, and never truly live again. In that moment, the galaxy changed forever. The Necrons became tireless, fearless, unburdened by pain, hunger, or exhaustion. Their armies marched without rest, their fleets fought without mercy. Their weapons tore apart matter at the atomic level, unraveling reality one particle at a time. They no longer feared death. They no longer feared loss. They feared only betrayal. The war in heaven consumed the galaxy. Entire star systems were annihilated. Civilizations were erased not over centuries, but in instants. Reality itself fractured under the strain of weapons so powerful that causality buckled beneath them. Some of those weapons no longer exist, not because they were lost, but because the universe could not tolerate them. They destabilized time, collapsed dimensions, unmade the laws they relied upon. Even the Necrons would later forbid their use, sealing their blueprints away, erasing knowledge too dangerous to survive. The Old Ones were hunted to extinction, their creations fled or fell. Their mastery of the warp became their undoing as the Immaterium grew violent, unstable, and hostile. Even the gods were not spared. When the Necrons realized the Khitan had betrayed them, feeding upon their souls, manipulating their dynasties, and herding them into eternal servitude, they turned on their creators. The rebellion was swift, calculated, absolute. Using weapons designed to kill the unkillable, the Necrons shattered the Citan. Star gods were broken into fragments, bound, enslaved, living concepts reduced to tools and batteries. But victory came at a terrible cost. The galaxy they had won was no longer fit to rule. The warp had been poisoned by war. Psychic energy boiled unchecked. New powers were gestating in the Immaterium, hungering gods born of emotion, excess, and slaughter. The Eldar were rising, young, psychic, unstable. The galaxy was no longer silent. The Necrons had won the war, but the aftermath threatened even them. So they did what no empire had ever done before. They chose to sleep, not in surrender, not in defeat, but in calculation. across millions of worlds, the Necrons built tomb complexes beneath planetary crusts. Entire armies lay down in stasis. Dynasties sealed themselves away, programming their awakening for a future age when the galaxy would be calmer, weaker, ripe for reclamation. And then their ruler vanished. The Silent King, having ordered the shattering of the Shaitan, severed his command protocols. He erased his authority over the dynasties, and he exiled himself beyond the galaxy, leaving his people to slumber without a guiding voice. For 60 million years, they did not move. Stars were born and died overhead. Species evolved, rose, and vanished. Empires bloomed and collapsed, all while the Necrons waited. Their tombs endured planetary shifts, stellar radiation, and the slow erosion of time. Systems degraded, memories fractured, but the command remained: wait. And now, the tombs are opening. A Necron does not live. It functions. Each warrior is a machine animated by the echo of a mind that no longer remembers what it once was. Individuality is rare. Emotion is dulled or gone entirely. But not all Necrons are empty. Those of higher rank, overlords, Crypteks, Pharaons, retain fragments of what they were: pride, vanity, grudges that have fermented for millions of years. Some remember the sound of their own voices, others remember the sun under which they were born, and some remember the moment their souls were taken and have never forgiven it. Their bodies are composed of living metal that flows and reforms around damage. Limbs severed in battle reattach themselves. Shattered torsos knit back together as if reality itself refuses to let them remain broken. When a Necron is destroyed, it does not die, it is recalled. Teleportation matrices pull damaged units from the battlefield, rebuilding them atom by atom within tomb complexes. Moments later, they return, again and again and again. Killing a Necron is not a victory, it is a delay. Necron weapons are relics of a forgotten age. Gauss flares strip matter layer by layer, peeling flesh from bone, bone from armor, armor from atoms. Living targets are reduced to drifting clouds of molecular dust. Their technology does not destroy for cruelty or spectacle. It corrects. Matter is disassembled, energy is reclaimed, waste is eliminated. Their artillery collapses bunkers into singularities. Their fleets phase in and out of reality, bypassing defenses entirely. They do not bombard cities, they erase them. To many Necron dynasties, life itself is a mistake, a contamination introduced by the warp, a temporary infestation spread across a galaxy that was once clean. Necron society is rigid, ancient, and merciless. Each dynasty is ruled by a Pharaon, an immortal monarch who remembers the galaxy as it once was. Beneath them are overlords, Crypteks, and Lichguard, executioners, scientists, and royal protectors. And beneath them all are the warriors, billions of them, silent, obedient, mindless. They do not chant, they do not roar, they do not flee, they march. When Necrons invade a world, there is no warning, no build-up, no declaration of war. Reality simply fractures. Green lightning tears open the air as monolithic structures rise from beneath the planet's surface. Cities built unknowingly atop tomb complexes collapse as ancient fortresses claw their way into daylight. The ground opens, and the dead walk out. Imperial Guard regiments report a unique psychological phenomenon when facing Necrons. Fear gives way to confusion. Confusion gives way to despair. There are no battle cries to answer, no visible emotion to exploit, morale to break. Necrons advance through artillery fire without slowing. Lasguns scorch necrodermis but fail to halt the march. Explosions throw bodies apart, only for them to rise again seconds later. Commanders report the same phrase in after-action logs. They did not acknowledge us. Civilians fare worse. There are no massacres, there is no cruelty, there is simply extermination. Entire populations vanish as Necron harvesting engines strip cities of biomass, converting the remains into raw energy. Survivors are hunted methodically, catalogued, and eliminated. Children hide beneath rubble. Families flee into ruins. The Necrons follow, not out of hatred, out of procedure. After the battle, the world does not burn. It goes quiet. No spores. No ruins teeming with life. Just empty cities and silent skies. Planets reclaimed by the Necrons are transformed into dead worlds, cold, sterile, and eternal. Some dynasties believe this is only the beginning. They do not merely seek conquest, they seek correction. Many Necrons pursue lost sciences that might restore what was taken. To reverse biotransference, to reclaim flesh, or to perfect their machine forms beyond even their current state. The war is not over. It is ongoing maintenance. The true horror of the Necrons is not their power. It is their patience. They do not rush. They do not adapt. They remember. They know how this galaxy ends because they have already seen it die once before. To them, humanity is not an enemy. It is a brief anomaly, a flicker, a mistake that will be corrected as all others were. Imperial strategists acknowledge a grim truth. Necrons cannot be intimidated. They cannot be exhausted. They cannot be reasoned with. Exterminatus is often ineffective. Tomb worlds lie buried too deep, shielded by technologies that predate the Imperium by millions of years. Every destroyed dynasty is merely one that woke too early. Others still sleep, waiting. In a galaxy defined by endless war, the Necrons are not participants. They are the inevitable conclusion. Death that ruled the galaxy before life began. And now that death has remembered us, the living believe this galaxy belongs to them. The Necrons have seen that belief die before.